Hi all sammen. I'll speak in English today. We have a French-English guest here. This is Unity Center, Einar speaking. Today we're going to talk about homeopathy. How would you say that in English?
Homeopathy.
Homeopathy. Okay. In Norway now, we still don't have many people believing that homeopathy works. Because the media is against it and they say that it's not scientific proven and so on and so on and so on. But we at the Unity Center, we see every day that homeopathy works. And now we have a homeopath from England that has been studying this and working lots of years with homeopathy and seen very many good results. Now I'm going to ask you lots of questions about homeopathy, how it works and everything. So the main thing is that homeopathy is used in all over the world. And even in Europe, some countries having it for free.
Yes. So first, thanks for having me and giving me the chance to talk about what I love the most, which is our human nature and how we heal. And homeopathy is used all around the world, and specifically in Europe, about 30 million people.
30
million people from the average Joe in France and Germany to the Queen of England. So if it's good enough for Buckingham Palace, I think it's good enough for...
I think even the Norwegian king family is also using it.
Yes. Yeah. So it's good for everybody, for even animals. Organic farms around the UK, France are using homeopathy so that they can keep their labels and not use conventional antibiotics or whatever. And it's used in countries as big as India. They have a Ministry of Homeopathy.
Oh.
And I think these places in the world know a thing or two about healing. And as small and forward-thinking as Switzerland, who has recently, last year, decided to give homeopathy the same status as conventional medicine. So it's very widely spread.
Wow. Wasn't it in the last time we had this flu, the bird flu thing in all the countries, especially Norway, the government said you have to take the flu vaccine.
Yeah.
And then I heard at Cuba they used homeopathy.
Oh yes, they had an amazing case of, because Cuba had an embargo. So these are some places in the world, some countries in Africa and Cuba, they never had access to conventional medicine. They skipped that step. And there's been a case that is documented about not only the bird flu, but also a case of leishmaniasis, which is a very serious infection, and that was cured solely using homeopathy because it's cheap and effective. Very happy to share the study through my website or via emails or Unity's website. Yeah.
We're gonna in the last part here we're gonna put your website up on the text.
Yeah.
So people can go in and look at it.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's a little bit short introduction, and then I would like to hear a little bit about your history.
Okay.
I heard you started as a musician.
So I started in the music industry.
Singer?
No, no, I'm not talented in that way, but I always felt from a very young age that there was something in music that was beyond my understanding. And actually music was healing for me. Music as a vibration, really. And now I understand it because I got the science and the knowledge behind it. But I always felt very inclined to help artists. So I graduated as a lawyer in copyright and royalties, and ended up I've done pretty much everything except working for record labels, but worked as a manager, as a booking agent. I was fortunate enough to work with some of the world's biggest bands like Led Zepp, Aerosmith, Shakira, and so on.
You worked as a lawyer for them? Or?
No, I worked as in the agency that was booking the tours.
Okay.
So some days we'd be working on 30 tours at the same time, and then I worked independently as a manager as well. But then what happened is that I burnt out, and following a few episodes of grief and breakdowns, I completely burnt out doing what I loved, and having kids as well. And conventional medicine did nothing for me, absolutely nothing, except, you know, getting results from blood tests, and I was not well, and doctors were telling me there's nothing wrong with you. And I was suffering from anxiety. I was losing my hair, not being able to sleep, eat, leaving my home. And I just didn't understand how could I be let down by something that I believed as, you know. But then I come from a long lineage of herbalists and botanists in my family. Mm-hmm. My grandfather was, you could say, a herbal healer, and my parents were very close to nature in the way they brought us up. And I remember that my mum had given me medicine for one of my child who didn't sleep very well. And I just ended up going to see a homeopath. And after 18 months of not being able to leave my home and suffering anxiety attacks several times a day, she gave me a couple of pills, just a couple of sugar pills. And within 24 hours, everything, all the turmoil, all these, wow, all the suffering that I was experiencing just left.
24 hours?
Yeah, just miraculously. And I paid attention to it because I'm a curious nature, and I thought, what is this? How is that possible? That I've seen so many doctors and nurses and been to hospital and been giving calming drugs and all of that. Nothing touched my issues. And then a couple of sugar pills did it for me. And then I had another grief. Somebody passed away in my family. As you know, life happened. Shit happens to all of us, you know. And again, that worked for me. Snapped me out of the grief. And within 3 months, I was sitting at college, and I was like, okay, I've committed to find out what is this. And it takes 4 or 5 years to train. I've trained with one of the world's biggest college. They still deliver.
College for Homeopathy?
Yeah. It's
in
called
London?
the Centre for Homeopathic Education in London, Regent's Park. And they have branches in Budapest and New York. And the great thing about the college where I've been is that they train in clinical. So, you know, clinical issues like you bumped your head, but also what we call classical homeopathy, which is to find out where you are in your life and just reminding yourself where to go when you're off balance. And yeah, that's how my journey started.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then lots of people would say it's placebo.
Of course.
Do you have any... How do you explain that one?
The first thing I want to say is who cares? Something works, yeah?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, who cares what it is? But it's not placebo. There's a French professor called Luc Montagnier, and he's the man who's got a Nobel Peace Prize, and he also discovered the AIDS virus. So I think he knows a thing or two about medicine. And he said, nanoparticles of something are not nothing. When it comes to who we are, it's not through something violent and pushy and hard that we heal. It's just a nudge that we give to our vital force. So, if we say that nanoparticles of something are not nothing, then we can understand how homeopathy works. Because homeopathy is the art of nothingness. And it's the art of less is more. You know, animals, when they're hurt, they don't go and run around and look for medicine. They just go and rest and stop eating. That's how they heal in the wild. And we are, let's say, 50% animals. You know, we have livers and kidneys and, you know, and we have a vital energy within us. So we're pretty much coming from them and maybe evolve in a different way, but we share the same wisdom. The problem with mankind now is that we are so disconnected from who we are. And so we get sick, just to remember. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, It makes a lot of sense. But I was talking about nanoparticles longer down
Yeah.
here, but while you're in nanoparticles, can you then into the explanation about homeopathy?
Yeah.
They say that the scientific people say that you can't find any particles in homeopathic remedies.
Yes.
But I heard about that these pills, they remember some kind of energy.
Yes.
Is that nanoparticles or
Yes. It's the memory.
frequency?
Yes. It's the memory of a frequency. So even though there's no more material matter, there's no more material particles of the original substance, there is the memory of what was there. And that is enough for giving the body a nudge where to go. I'll give you another example. Vaccines are homeopathy.
Yes, that's the same.
Okay?
Same
It's the same. It's the same
same thing, yeah.
principle of like cures like. Let's take an example. So you know, 10 years ago, when babies used to be born, straight away at birth, we used to give BCG, the tuberculosis vaccine. We don't do it anymore because it doesn't work anymore. The bacteria has actually mutated, and there's a lot of harm. And we know that there's a principle of precaution that needs to be considered when we put something into the human body, especially before the immune system has even started to kick in.
Yeah.
You know, so when you give a little bit of tuberculosis into the bloodstream of a human being, of a human organism, the organism will start building immunity towards whichever bacteria or virus you're trying to fight, in that case tuberculosis. The problem with it, and why I don't subscribe to it, and it's fine for people to subscribe to it, but I don't, is because I believe that whatever is not supposed to be in the human body should not be there. And people need to know what's in there, i.e. heavy metals and a lot of adjuvants that I wouldn't even dare to put into a baby's mouth, so directly into the bloodstream at 2 months. So that, for me, goes against the very principle of medicine, which is at least do not harm. That is the basic minimum in medicine. If you're going to do something to another human being, at least do not create any disturbance. So how disconnected is medicine now to what Hippocrates used to say, the father of modern medicine? Do not harm.
He said also something in your works I've seen. He said something about using the same medicine as
Yes.
what do you call it again?
So it's called, well, he said natural forces within us are the true healers of diseases.
Yes.
And that's the definition of homeopathy.
Yeah.
Now, let's remember that Hippocrates, so the father of modern medicine, and I think that when people leave the faculty of medicine, they still have to give oath, and it's called the Hippocratic Oath.
Okay.
So that's how considered he is in modern medicine. And he said 3 things. Let food be the medicine. I can't tell you how many times I went to see doctors and they never made the connection between what I ate and how I felt. I think the world is changing now. We're going back to something a lot more, you know, it's logical, right?
Of course. But at the same time, I heard that in the medical studies, you only have, it's not many hours you have about food
No.
and what you put in yourself.
No, and that's why we have a lot of great nutritionists who are writing books and, you know, doing TED Talks and people
Yes.
find healing that way. But that's the first thing he said. Second thing he said was, and he was very challenging at the time because he was born 5th centuries before Christ, and at a time where everything was the will of the gods. But he came to challenge, and he said, actually, there's something within us that creates disturbance, therefore the cure has to come from within as well.
Yes.
And that's what homeopathy says. Yeah? And the third thing is what I said earlier. A very principle of modern medicine is not to harm anybody.
And modern medicine, the main works of pills is suppressing the
Yeah.
symptoms, the symptoms, what do you call it? The pills are suppressing the symptoms, and the main illness still is in the body.
Yes. So again, I think homeopathy is creative enough for me not to have to spend, the next 20 minutes saying modern medicine doesn't do this and doesn't do that. I'm here in Norway because I want people to awaken to choices. And your choice might be to take Prozac for 20 years, and who am I to judge you? But if you feel that it's not for you, there's another great system of medicine, and that might be the one you go for. And the one that I've chosen is indeed the one that doesn't go and hide. So it's as if I want to clean this room and just take all the dust and put it in a corner and pretend it's clean. No, you haven't done your work yet. You just put it on the side, and as soon as the window will open and you have draft in the room, the dust will come all over again. So when I hear stories like, I'll take somebody as famous as Angelina Jolie, okay? Her mom died from breast cancer, I believe. Her grandmother died from a very harsh strain of brain cancer as well, breast cancer. So she goes on and removes her breast and puts silicone into her body. And this is somebody that everybody looks up to. A lot of young girls, women, my age even, just like see her as an icon of beauty, of wisdom, and talent, and a star basically. This is terrible, terrible advertising for healing, because that's not how we heal. And if you don't remove the reason why your body is susceptible to creating tumors, they will come back. And the body is very wise and intelligent, and they will first come to non-vital organs like the breast or one lung or one kidney, and then they'll go to somewhere more vital like the brain. And if you've got a tumor in your brain, you're screwed. Yeah? It's hard to get rid of it without being intrusive and disturbing the whole organism. So what homeopaths are saying is that, well, you got cancer, let's look into it. Let's look at how we can understand why you are not your neighbor. And there's a whole understanding around how we function as human beings, the energy centers, which, it's very simple. There's nothing mysterious about the chakras. It's the glands. The thyroid, the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, the ovaries, the testes, the adrenal glands. These are the governing centers in the body. And most diseases are linked to an imbalance within that. It's like a heating system. It's like your central heating system. If one gets out of shape, the whole system is screwed. So, yeah.
But what do you think, why do we get sick in these organs? Is it even deeper? Is it from the psyche, or where does it start?
So the way I personally work, because I feel very very attracted to this way of healing, is that every disease, even the person who creates a lot of trauma in their life and have a lot of car crashes, for example, it starts on the spiritual plane. And the greatest healing is in the spiritual plane. And then it goes into the mental and emotional. Then it goes into the physical. Sometimes we get stuck in the physical and we start a new disease in the spiritual plane. So for example, it started there, then you get eczema, then you've used cortisone, you send the disease right back in, and it creates a disturbance internally, and then another disease comes on the emotional plane. But for me, every disease starts on the spiritual plane, even attracting trauma in your life, like accidents. We all know of somebody they always have. They go skiing, they break their arm, and then they go,
You mean that is that is a message? When you crash or break your arm, there's some kind of message you have to look into that.
You have to clear that. Sometimes you clear that and then you realize you're carrying something from before. From maybe your predispositions, your genetic predisposition, and homeopaths, we call that the theory of miasm. So, for example, in a family there's been tuberculosis, and before that there was syphilis, and it was all over the world, you know. These have left an imprint on the genetic map of mankind. And sometimes it comes back as a disease. If you go back to the time of Christ, it was called Sora, which was the disease of the skin, a lot of skin diseases. Then with the development of the church, a lot of shame was put around sexuality. And then syphilis emerges, yeah, as a, you know, gonorrhea, all these diseases linked to reproduction, creativity, and again being suppressed and judged. Then tuberculosis, because of the conditions close to the era of industrialization, where people were living cramped, with a lot of damp and really bad accommodation. That's how tuberculosis can thrive. And the more recent genetic predisposition is the miasm of cancer.
What do you mean with miasm?
Miasm, I mean, it's something that has become so chronic in mankind. It's so common. 1 in 2 people, 1 in 3, and then now 1 in 2, and then, you know, next it will be everybody. Yeah, it's leaving its mark in our DNA. What homeopaths are able to do, we train to do, is to treat that. So I even recommend to people before conceiving, come and see a homeopath, try it. Get rid of the eczema. Get rid of the suppression. Like emotional suppression can lead to cancer. Yeah?
Yes.
A lot of suppression can lead to cancer. For example, we're in an era where we can't smell. We have to smell good. So people use deodorant with aluminium in it every single day of their life, maybe twice a day, in the most sensitive, delicate part of the body, the underarms. And then they develop breast cancer. And we can find the particles of heavy metals. So we know the link between deodorant use and cancer. That is suppression, isn't it? You don't want to smell. You hear of people who are removing their glands, the perspiration glands, in order not to smell. Surely you shouldn't smell that bad that you have to do that. So what homeopaths would say is like, let's go and look in why are you smelling? Another form of suppression is the contraceptive pill. Extremely convenient. Extremely convenient. It's fantastic. It allows women sexuality without worrying about conception. But it suppresses the cycle. And the cycle, the flow, is there for a reason. You know, there's a cyclic movement flow in the female body is crucial. So you have women who have taken the pill for 20 years. And then they're completely disconnected from their inner wisdom. They don't know where they are. Find out they have uterus cancer or whatever. We see the link. And we have to be humble because we don't have all the studies. And I'm sorry to say, but you know, most of the studies are funded by the pharmaceutical industry. So
no, you're talking about the scientific studies.
Yeah, or the one that are published and the one that we give great value, you know, to that fascism of science. They're only being funded when there's a profitable outcome to them.
Yes.
So there's plenty of studies about how homeopathy works and why it works. And if you give my website, there's a link there, but also there's a website of the Homeopathy Research Institute in the UK. There's so many different websites where people can find as many studies as they want, and we want more, but they're not being funded because it's cheap and efficient. So if you come and see me, I don't intend to stay with you for the rest, you know, for the next 5 years. It's not. You're the healer, not me. So you just need a little bit of remembrance of how to heal. And we don't make money out of that, do we? It's not a business.
I don't know of any millionaire homeopaths.
No, not yet. But you know, if they were given the same power as conventional doctors have been given, they probably get as corrupted. It's the
Yes.
nature of mankind
Yes.
to be greedy, and so it's all about humility, and knowing that you have the answer to your imbalance. I have the one to mine, and we can't duplicate that.
But when you talk about traumas and things that could go over and make you sick,
Yeah.
the best thing is to go to a psychiatrist or something and talk about the traumas, or meditate and find out yourself. Or so the main thing is to manage your traumas. I call all mental problems, if you call it traumas.
Yeah.
That's if you can manage yourself or go to a psychiatrist, that would be a smart thing to do, I think.
It's very smart, but it's very laborious.
What's laborious?
Laborious means it's effort. You have to go and sit and
Yes,
talk about your life.
yes.
And what I like about homeopathy is that there's nothing to do. There's no. I've never been a great fan of pushing and or like having to. It's just about, okay, where are you? It's like a snap game, snap, where you play cards and you have to find like the same cards.
Okay, now
I'm not even good at that game. It's very
I don't
simple.
like cards.
But yeah, it's all about, okay, where are you? Let's match it.
Yeah.
And then your body, your higher self, maybe your ego. I don't know where is the disease. So, but that would do the work for you. Isn't that great? And what I like is that by giving sugar pills, which carry the vibration, there's not just sugar pill, but yeah, there's nothing in there, just the vibration. It's easy. You have a baby with a temperature, it's not going to go to see a psychiatrist, or you just give a pill of belladonna and we're done. And maybe that has been preventing much higher inflammation in that child.
You mean also that the people that has traumas of any kind,
Yeah.
is enough to go to a homeopath?
Yes.
If
Give
you
me an
have
example.
big traumas too?
Yeah, of course.
Well, how does it work then? You manage to get the with the pills. You can get the traumas out in real life, and you can deal with it easier, or
Yes, so it will come out as it has come in, as you have let it come in. The problem with homeopathy is that you're in charge, and most people don't want to be in charge. So, okay, I have this trauma. I can't commit to a relationship because my parents divorced when I was 8. How long are you going to play that movie? Do you see? It's like, how long you're going to comply into the trauma. Homeopathy gently pushes you to take responsibility for your life. Because the problem that we have is that we think we have time. We don't have time. Our time on earth is very limited. And I strongly believe that we're only here to inspire and be inspired. That the only thing that's real, really, is exchanges between human relationships, really. And only love is real. Everything else is an interesting movie. And you can get stuck into the movie. Oh, yes, this happened when I was 10. My dog died. And now I can't commit to relationships. So what the homeopath does is to create a space to let you express that. And that's already enormous. And especially, I see it here in Norway, where people are not used to talk about how they feel. It's not part of the culture. I'm French, North African. People express their anger, they express their emotion, they cry, they shout. It's not a problem, but culturally here, it's not acceptable. And that's the beauty of the people here. But once you create a space, you realize that people are just people everywhere. They have so much. Everybody has a story. And we fooling ourselves when we just cling on to our traumas. And sometimes I look at my clients and I think, well, who am I to go and remove your depression? Because once you remove the depression, you have to get on with what Hahnemann, the creator of homeopathy, says, the higher purpose of existence. So some people cling on to their arthritis or their asthma, because if you remove it, which is not that hard, to be honest, it's quite easy to heal. It's not that complicated. You have to get on why the hell you're here. And that's huge. Because it gives meaning to your life, and we all have an inner saboteur that tells us that we don't matter. Like, who am I? Okay, so I'm just going to go and work in a bank and get a mortgage and get the wifey and get the children and then die. I mean, get retirement, hopefully, if you don't die before 80 or whatever.
Yes.
And then there's so much more to life. And some people are just not ready to embrace it, and that's fine. So whatever is there, if somebody comes with saying, I am lost in my life and I don't have directions, homeopathy can help. If they come and say, can you please get rid of my eczema that started when my parents divorced, when I was little, and I can't get rid of it, then I just do that. But in the process of that, something greater might happen with the higher self. But it's not for me to do it. It's up to the patient.
Well, this sounds great. Does homeopathy have any side effects?
Homeopathy is safe with pregnant women, children, babies. I gave homeopathy to my 2-week-old baby. Elderly people, plants. There's agro-homeopathy, you can give it to your plants. It's safe with everything because it's a law of the universe. Like cures like. Now, in the process of healing, sometimes there can be what some homeopaths call a healing crisis. But I choose to just call it healing. Healing is not always a walk in the park. So I give you a very vivid example that I have. I don't usually prescribe for my own kids. I find it difficult as they grow older. But the other day my child was like, Mommy, I feel sometimes I can't talk, I can't express how I feel, and the words get stuck in my throat. And then I see that he's attracted to salt a lot, like nuts with salt and olives, and so I decided to give him Natura Muriaticum, which is one of the greatest grief remedy and one of the greatest water balance remedy. It's sea salt, basically. Yeah, and I'm prescribed here a lot in Norway because you're just close to the water, and there's a history of fishermen and women in this country. So you're very close to the water element. It's an amazing remedy. I really recommend people to go and read about it. And I gave him one pill, made on a 1,000-pound machine, yeah? There's no even original substance. The machine has the vibration as a program, and it's just a tiny vibration. I gave him one pill. The next day, he was covered in eczema. I've put pictures on my website. His legs covered in eczema. And I know what's happening. There was some inflammation, something building around the heart of my child, maybe in his throat. Maybe he would have had thyroid issues, or maybe inflammation around the heart. I don't know what we have prevented. What I know is that something from within him came outside of him. And the skin is the greatest elimination organ. So now I would be really silly to go and put some cortisone on to send it right back in.
Yeah.
But at the same time, so he's itchy, maybe for 2 weeks, maybe for 1 week, I don't know. We shall see. But at the same time, he tells me, I feel so much better, Mommy. I had this heaviness in my heart and now I feel good. And he talks to me about his day at school and how he feels. And I see this kind of healing happening a lot around me.
That was a very good example.
It's a very good example, and I feel I can share it because it's my boy. But it happens every day in clinic, and that's how we heal from within to outside. And in homeopathy, we have the law of cures, which were set by Constantine Herring. Not like the fish. I know you love herring in Norway. And there's 3 principles. Is that it's from within outside, from more vital organs to less vital. The skin can cope with a great inflammation. The heart can't. The heart, over the years you'll create a problem. And also from up to down. So you see, I think that the problem was here, the throat chakra, the heart chakra, and it went down to his feet, and now it's leaving its body. So, yeah, these 3 laws, which are, you know, what homeopaths look for when we're treating chronic diseases or even acute diseases, we're looking for these 3 laws to be respected. So we have very concrete principles that we work on. It takes 4 years to train, you know. Yeah.
How do you make the pills?
So myself.
And on Norwegian homeopaths, they usually go and buy different kinds of remedies in the apotheke, but you have a machine making your own.
So I've worked with one of the biggest pharmacies in the UK called Ainsworth, and I was working as an advisor on the phone, and they make remedy by hand, and they use a machine in the potentization. I need to explain that. So homeopathy is like, you know, when you go to the seaside and you throw a pebble in the sea. If you're very close to the sea, the impact of your pebble will be minimum. Yeah? If you go up the cliff, it will be the same size pebble will make a much bigger, deeper, longer lasting effect. You can see it at the surface, especially if you go on top of a lake. Yeah? In homeopathy, the more we dilute, the more potent, the more powerful the remedies are. The deeper they can go. So the remedy, for example, belladonna, which is an amazing acute remedy.
What do you use that one for?
We use that one for fevers.
Okay.
For example. You can also use it for nightmares in children. But you see, there's different kinds of fever. The way I do fever is belladonna. So get red in the face, my pupils dilate, you know, they look bigger than usual, and I'm hot, and I sweat, and I want a lot of water, and I go delirious. But some other people are chilly, they don't want to drink, and they're just lethargic. You see how can we have just one drug for fever? Paracetamol. You know, we all do fever a different way. Belladonna is a nightshade. It's a flower that will be very poisonous if you go and eat it in the natural state. We can dilute it to what we call 30C, for example, potency, which is a certain amount of time. It's been diluted with alcohol and then potentized with vibrations, with succussion. So succussion could be putting a little bit of the material belladonna into a bottle with alcohol, and then you shake it vigorously. That's something that Hahnemann has added to homeopathy. Until there's no more of the material left, and then we go higher in potency. And I have given belladonna 50 m, for example, so a very strong dilution, to someone who was delirious all the time, you know, psychosis, with a strong inflammation. So there was maybe an inflammation in the brain. You see how you can be treating a simple fever in a child to somebody who's psychotic.
Wow.
Yeah? And there's thousands of remedies. You could make a remedy out of pretty much everything. But
do you do it on a machine, or you just make the potence in a machine?
So that's how traditionally the remedies are made. And still that is being discussed by the skeptics, okay? Because it's nanoparticles. Now, because I travel, I started doing charity projects in Nepal, and then I went to the refugee camps in north of France, and you know, carrying the remedies, they're being x-rayed at the airport, and you don't have all of them. I decided to buy a machine. The machine has vibration, so basically homeopathic remedies have been recorded. The vibration has been recorded into this machine. All the potencies, all the frequencies. It works the same with bioresonance machine. Now, I don't know exactly how it's been made, but I'm going to tell you now. It's a hot knowledge for me, because it really tells us how, you know, what are we really? What's reality? What's energy? What's matter? This machine that I carry with me has never seen any material. There's been, I believe, 50 homeopaths scattered around the world who have been dowsing with a pendulum the frequency of remedies, and when more than half of them agreed on the frequency, it was recorded in the machine. And the reaction of my son, which is documented on my website, was from a remedy made on this machine. And I have dozens of testimonials that I have to actually put on our YouTube channel from my clients.
But did you put a sugar pill in there and put the frequency on it, or?
So the sugar pill is just a carrier, and yes, the frequency goes on it. If you, for example, I can make also remedies from people's addiction. So I use it for people who want to stop smoking. I take one of their cigarette, put it in one part of the machine, and then make sugar pill. You can use alcohol, you can use honey. Honey is a great carrier for vibration. It's the greatest. It's quite expensive. Like I trained as a bioresonance technician on Harley Street in London, and the doctor I was working with used honey.
Okay.
And you can also use bioresonance machine to carry vibration. The other thing that he used, which I thought was genius, is a bracelet. So we will charge the bracelet with the frequency that was needed for the healing for very serious diseases, and in this case he was a holistic dentist. So if somebody was having a procedure like a root canal and he did some remedies to prevent abscesses in the mouth because he doesn't want to use any chemicals or any drugs, then we will send them home with the bracelet charge. So it's always with them until the next visit.
Well, lots of things I never knew.
Yeah, well, I'm discovering every day myself, so yeah.
And Tesla, this guy for 100 years ago that told about that could make electricity for free.
Yeah.
He said that you can understand everything in the universe if you think in vibrations, frequency, and energy. That's what you're doing, though.
Yeah, that's a beautiful transition, thank you, because it's exactly what I'm saying. What are we really? If we respond to vibration, what does it mean? What are we? And I take my clients on a journey to realize that they are not this body. This body is just a vehicle. It's a tool. It's a tool for the spirit, or what Hahnemann called the vital force. And I have to use the vital force because spirit can be quite taboo and controversial, especially when you're speaking to people who don't see the world the way I see it now. I see the world as energies. There's only energies. Everything in the universe carries a frequency. The whole universe started with a sound. And for me that goes back to music. Yeah, the Big Bang. You know, it was a vibration.
Or a thought.
Yeah. And in that way, you know, you could see God as an energy.
And then we come to the last thing, as you've been talking all the way. Rumi is a famous poet, and he talking about everything is within you.
Yeah.
And that's what you're working from.
Yeah, I think that we are really made of stardust, and everything was made from the same substance.
Yes.
So everything is within you. And in my daily work is like, where are you vibrating? What's happening here? Are you an animal? Are you a vegetal? Are you a mineral? Are you a electromagnetic field? Whatever it is. And then just try to respond to this with a remedy from one of those kingdoms, and then healing occurs, as you know, like cures like. And Rumi has been a great teacher for me. I'm very much inspired by his poetry, and I think he's one of the best-selling books in the US now, because it's just there's something for everybody in Rumi's work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Now we come to the last part where you look into camera and tell the world what's important in life.
I think what's important in life is to realize that everyone matters, and that we're here to love and there's no way that we can love until we love ourselves. And addressing any imbalance or disease with the attention that we are strong when we know that we are vulnerable, and we're trying to protect ourselves from breaking down and not break our heart, but our heart wants to be broken. It's here to become soft. Disease happens when we are not flowing anymore with this vulnerability. And the last thing is that no one is a healer except yourself. You know, you're the healer and for yourself, and that's enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was
Thank you.
fantastic.
Thank you very much. Thank you.